The Steam Summer Sale is here, so hold on to your wallets and let's check out some deals on strategy games right after a word from our sponsor. Republic of Pirates is a pirate-themed city builder and RTS game set during the golden age of piracy. You're tasked with expanding a small pirate outpost into a sprawling utopia full of industries and amenities. You can then use your economic might to build powerful ships and engage defenseless merchants or rival pirates. Once your fleet is strong enough, you can even attack other rival islands to place them under your control and expand your territory further. The bottom line is, if you ever want to be a pirate lord and carve out your own little empire, then this game is for you. Check it out for 10% off during the Steam Summer Sale, or head over to the pinned comment below where you can enter to win one of 5 keys. Thank you to Republic of Pirates for sponsoring this video. Now, let's check out some deals. So let's get the obvious choices out of the way first. Total War Warhammer 3 is 50% off, 50% off every DLC before and including Ogre Kingdoms, and 64% off the Trilogy Bundle. Sadly, no discounts on any of the Thrones of Decay DLCs if you've been waiting for that, but grabbing Ogres half off in preparation for their next DLC upgrade might not be such a bad idea. Plus, you have the seat of the previous game's DLCs, which are actually reasonably priced already, so 50% off on top of that is quite the steal. Recent DLCs are still pretty costly, but if you're waiting for an excuse, they're likely not going to get much cheaper anytime soon. Personally, if it was me and I owned nothing, I'd be looking at the trilogy with Mortal Empires and all the base game factions. You have hours and hours and hours of gameplay to enjoy, provided you enable a few essential mods. And then every Paradox game also has some sort of deal on it. Stellaris is 70% off the base game with 50% off most DLCs and various other editions of the game. It's still pretty costly if you want to get absolutely everything outright, but there are 21 pieces of paid content, so what can you do? Besides, you only really need like a third of that to have a great time for a lot of hours. It's just about the grandest scale strategy game you can play, spanning a literal galaxy with potentially hundreds of planets. The build variety and gameplay here are vast and make the game extremely replayable, so even with just the base game, you can get a lot out of it. I personally haven't played a lot of Crusader Kings, but 60% off the base game and up to 50% off its DLC. If you like building up a medieval empire and marrying off your relatives for profit, then this one is the game for you. Hearts of Iron is 70% off and 50% off most of its DLCs. I have tried to play this one several times, but it is a little bit overwhelming, so proceed with caution. It's basically an incredibly in-depth World War II simulation where you can play as just about any country and steer the world where you like. Just a fair warning for this one, from what little I know, it can devour your life, and the pipeline is real, so purchase at your own risk of becoming epic. City Skylines 2 is only 10% off and still a little bit jank, but the original is 70% off and has up to 50% off most DLCs, giving you plenty to do while you wait for the sequel to become good. The original has hundreds of hours of content with tons of maps, a ridiculous amount to build depending on what you're going for, and the level of detail that has yet to be met. It's one of those games that does require you to bring a little bit of your own creativity, so if you're happy with that, then it's a great time. Age of Wonders 4 is 30% off and 15% off its DLCs, and honestly, one of the most underrated strategy games right now. It's part strategy and part role-playing game, and all this comes together into a package that is really a ton of fun. The campaign has a lot of potential for fun story moments, either from the various story realms or simply from the random happenings of the AI. The battles are also turn-based and on a much smaller scale than something like Total War, but that helps keep things grounded and tense instead of getting lost in the pure spectacle. 50% off of Victoria 3 and up to 40% off its DLCs. It has had a bit of a rocky launch but seems to have stabilized a little bit. It's pretty much an economic simulator for the 19th century where you can play as pretty much any country and do whatever you want. It's a little bit of a sandbox, so you do have to go in with an idea of what you want to do, but it can be a lot of fun trying to take over the world as the king of all trade. Plus, communism is extremely overpowered in this accurate world simulation, so that's pretty based. And lastly, 70% off Europa Universalis and up to 70% off its DLCs. I honestly know nothing about this one, but from what I can tell, it looks like Hearts of Iron, but a little bit further in the past. It's another one that people seem to literally burn time on, so if you're into these settings and deep mechanics, then you'll probably love it. Anno 1800 has 80% off the base game, and the Year 5 Gold Edition with all the gameplay-related DLCs is 55% off. This is truly one of the most relaxing, time-devouring games to play, and for £10 for the base game, it's an absolute steal. With all the DLC, there is hundreds of hours of game here, so you're absolutely getting your money's worth. The name of the game is Production Chains and Resource Management, first in a single island, but quickly across multiple, and then across multiple areas of the world, each with their own mechanics and stories. Another game that's easy to pick up but challenging to master, giving you tons to do and learn. I really love this game and hardly play it because of how much I know it'll devour all my free time. Plus, the next game has been announced as Rome, so if you want to sharpen your skills before that releases, 1800 is pretty much the pinnacle. Frostpunk is 90% off for the base game and 84% off for the Game of the Year bundle, which includes all the DLC. £2.49 for the base game is an absolute steal, and under £8 for all the gameplay DLC is just ridiculous. The sequel has been pushed back to September, but if you're looking to get into the series before then, this is a great price to jump in with. City building during an apocalyptic winter as you battle to collect enough resources to build homes and workplaces and keep them all warm, that your people don't constantly get sick. It's a stressful battle to manage resources and keep your people alive, but one that feels very satisfying to master. Oh, and the soundtrack is the best in any game, aside from maybe Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, but that's hardly fair. Marvel's Midnight Suns is 75% off the base game and 75% off the Legendary Edition, which includes all the DLC. This one is one of the most criminally underrated games in the last few years. Excellent fun, card-based tactical battling, and endearingly cringe relationship building with a bunch of Marvel characters. What's not to like? Civ 6 has 95% off the base game and 88% off the anthology, which includes all the DLC. Civ 7 has recently been announced, but 6 is here and now, and as much as I prefer 5, it is the deepest Civ game to date with a crazy amount of depth and replay value with a variety of different countries and leaders. 5 doesn't actually have a sale for the base game, but you can get the collection with all its DLC for under £10, so if you want something a little easier to get into while still having that Civilization formula, it's just the ticket. Baldurs Gate 3 is 20% off. Let's not pretend like I need to tell you to play this phenomenal game. It won all the awards, and guess what? It deserved them. It's the deepest sale it's had so far, so if you're looking for an excuse to jump in, then go right ahead. It's well worth the full price of admission, so at this sale price, it's even more worth it. Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader has 35% off the base game. If Baldur's Gate looks a little too fancy for you, then Rogue Trader might be more up your street. Another excellent RPG with a ton of storylines, choices, and turn-based combat, all set in the 40k universe. Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate Daemonhunters is 70% off and 66% off for the Grandmaster Edition. Ridiculously long name aside, this is pretty much Warhammer 40k XCOM. You go around space taking on Nurgle threats to progress the story and level up your Grey Knights with a variety of fun weaponry and skills. While it can eventually be a little bit repetitive, there's a good variety of mission types to help keep things fresh. Plus the DLC adds Dreadnoughts and Assassins to your ranks, which drastically up the variety you can bring into missions, keeping the game fun for a lot longer. It can be challenging and a little bit stressful, but it is a lot of fun, and for just over £10, it's well worth it. Manor Lords is 25% off. This one is still pretty light on content and you can experience it all in a couple of sittings, but it's still a seriously impressive and seriously beautiful medieval city builder. It's in early access, so much more content is coming, so you are buying it for the potential, but judging from what we've seen so far, it should be pretty great when the one guy finishes working on it in like 20 years. Kenshi is 60% off and is one of the most unique games you will ever play. If the other RPGs in this video are too story-led, then you may want to try this out. It's a role-playing game where you're not the main character, you're just one person in a world and you're as weak as anyone else. In fact, you're normally much weaker. You simply have to explore and find something to do to survive by making money and food and try not to get eaten by cannibals. It is brutally difficult to learn, but I guarantee you will never play anything else quite like it. Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion is 66% off with 62% off for the Ultimate Edition. Sins of a Solar Empire 2 is still limited to Epic right now, but the classics are still here on Steam and a whole lot of fun whilst you wait for the full Steam release. These are true grand strategy space management games where you build up your space empire with planets, starships, and diplomacy. Of course, warfare is inevitable and the battles here are some of the most spectacular in just about any game. Rebellion is feature-rich and can run on just about anything, so it's a great pickup for those less powerful PC strategy games out there. It can be a little bit intimidating to learn with everything happening in real time, but once you get to grips, it really is a massive amount of fun. Now for a few games that I've personally enjoyed on the Steam Deck, they're a little bit out of the normal realm of strategy games, but are still some absolute bangers. Dredge is 35% off and 39% off the Pale Reach DLC bundle. This was my game of the year for 2023, and yes, that's going against Baldur's Gate 3. I played it twice, all the way through in just 6 months once I knew the DLC was coming. It's a phenomenal game from the vibes to the simple, satisfying gameplay, and even the story takes some twists and turns that left me shocked. It's a truly brilliant masterpiece of a game, and the DLC simply adds more to it and is well worth the full price, let alone this sale. Spiritfarer is 75% off, another excellent game I played earlier this year that I believe everyone should play once in their life. It's a truly beautiful game with a heart-wrenching story full of lovable characters, fun exploration and crafting, and even the odd life lesson or two. I really can't recommend this one enough. Even if you think it won't be up your street like I did, I promise both the gameplay and the story are excellent and well worth this heavily discounted price tag. Sayonara Wild Hearts is 40% off. Now to preface this by saying that you can technically complete this game in an hour, so your price per hour isn't the greatest here. However, what it lacks for in length, it makes up for in creativity, style, and pure transcendence vibes. Plus you can replay a ton to get perfect on every level and unlock a bunch of hidden awards. It's a brilliant magical game that will make you feel like a kid on Christmas morning, even if you're an old crusty boomer just like me. Disco Elysium is 90% off. I mean, it's probably the best written and best voice acted game of all time, so what else is there to say? While I don't entirely love it myself and felt it was a little bit verbose in some aspects, it's a great game that everyone should play at least once. If you really love a good story, great writing, and communism, then you'll probably really enjoy this game. It's very slow and basically all just talking to people, so if you're not into that, you might struggle, but it won all those awards for a reason. Signalis is 30% off. We're going from a gloriously written and acted story to another story that's really incredible but also ridiculously hard to piece together. Signalis is a PS1 style horror game where you play as Elster, who's searching for the literal girl of her dreams. Like a girl, she actually sees in her dreams, not just like romance. The gameplay is challenging and tense, the puzzles are tough and often require some kind of notes to be taken in real life, and the style and vibes are out of this world. As I said, the story is pretty vague but extremely interesting, and the full package is well worth the price of admission. And lastly, Katana Zero is 40% off and it is a very fast-paced action platformer where you play as a samurai hitman with the ability to slow down and effectively rewind time with the help of a certain suspicious drug. The gameplay here is very high speed and tense, and when you pull off a perfect run, it's very satisfying to go back and see yourself do it all over again. The story is also surprisingly interesting, and as the game goes on and more things are revealed, it gets pretty crazy, and by the end, I was extremely hyped for a sequel. It can be a little bit challenging, but if I can do it, so can you, so I wouldn't be too worried. And that about wraps up everything. Comment below any great pickups that you've personally found. I'd love to check them out and make my backlog even bigger. Like, subscribe, and if you're planning on picking up Total War Warhammer 3 in this sale, then maybe check out this video to see my essential mod recommendations.